First thoughts actually were with the children, the teachers and the parents, who must be absolutely terrified, clearly. But very quickly then my thoughts went to the pilots, and having spent a bit of time in that part of the world, I know how difficult it probably would have been to find even pilots with the requisite skills to be able to mount this kind of operation in the first place. The environmental issue they have there is that it's both hot and high. And as a pilot, one is very well aware that at sea level, if you were doing a winching operation at sea level, it's still pretty dangerous because the risk of cables getting caught around different structures, in this case, clearly the cable car wires themselves. But the moment you start going at altitude, you lose power and control. And when it gets hotter and higher, the less and less control you have, particularly if something goes wrong. So seeing these helicopters as they are over 6,500 feet, I believe, in hot conditions, very windy conditions, trying to stay in a hover, if something were to go wrong, the pilot has very little room for maneuver. So it must be extremely stressful and terrifying for both them and clearly the families and the children stuck in the cable car itself.
Yeah, stressful for everyone involved. We understand that 2 children have been taken off that cable car by sling. Can you talk us through how that would have worked? Because we've seen the commandos drop down by rope, presumably to communicate with those on board, to give food and water. But just explain to us how that rescue operation would have happened with the sling device.
Well, first of all, communication is absolutely critical in this sort of situation. And again, having spent a bit of time with some of these folks involved in previous years gone by, the requirement for really clear command and control will have been a massive issue in and of itself. So the fact it's taken so long for a rescue to even be mounted, I would imagine would be partly due to the fact that various, different leaders and administrators at different local and national level would be sort of having their say. And that would have probably undoubtedly led to some kind of delay to the rescue being mounted. But the actual process of winching people up is technically not that hard if you know that the folks you're trying to winch are experienced or understand what is going to be required of them. But these are teenagers, I believe, between sort of 10 and 16 years old. One of them has a heart condition, I understand, as well, and has already been unconscious for an amount of time. So trying to relay simple messages to people who are terrified to put a sling on them safely without that wire or the sling itself getting caught around the cable car will be very, very taxing for all involved. And thankfully, as we've seen, 2 have been evacuated. But now night has fallen. It's just too dangerous for the helicopter to continue today, I believe.